In the heart of Kago, in the buzzing suburb of Buru, lived a man named Kevin. He was 38, a civil engineer with a sleek apartment, a company car, and a neatly organized life. Kevin was the kind of man who quoted Chinua Achebe at brunch and had his tailor on speed dial. Clean-cut, brilliant, respected. He was married to Waku, a high school principal with a master's degree in education and a calm demeanor that masked a sharp intuition. Together, they were what many called a power couple. Their photos graced the walls of family WhatsApp groups, always smiling at some charity event or beach getaway, but behind the perfect Instagram smiles was a truth more tangled than telephone wires in downtown Kago. Kevin had a secret, and his secret had a name: Brian. Brian was a former architecture student turned interior designer, free-spirited, confident, and magnetic. They met during a site consultation in Westlands, and something had shifted. What began as compliments and long glances turned into meetings that went beyond design plans. It was dangerous, exciting, and hidden beneath layers of guilt and denial. At first, Kevin told himself it was nothing. Just an experiment, he whispered. But weeks turned into months. What they had was real. Complicated, taboo, but real. Yet the city has ears, and Kago whispers. And soon those whispers reached Waku. She didn't confront him immediately. Instead, she watched. She saw how Kevin's phone was always face down, how he suddenly had meetings on Sundays, how he grew short-tempered and distant. Waku was no fool. One evening after dinner, she stood by the kitchen window, watching the city lights shimmer like silent witnesses. "Kevin," she said quietly, "are you seeing someone else?" Kevin froze, a glass of water halfway to his lips. "Why would you say that?" "Because you no longer look at me like a husband looks at a wife. You look at me like a man carrying another world inside him." There was silence. Then came the words he never thought he'd say aloud. "It's not another woman, Waku. It's a man." The silence that followed could have swallowed the whole of Buru. Waku didn't cry. She sat down, folded her hands, and just breathed. "You have dishonored me," she said. "Not because you love someone else, but because you lied to me. You made a fool of my loyalty." Kevin wanted to speak, to explain, but there was nothing to say. The truth stood between them like a cracked mirror. The next morning, Waku packed his things into neat boxes and left them by the door. She told him he had until sunset. Kevin moved out. Word got out. Friends distanced themselves, unsure of where to stand. His family, shocked and ashamed, called it a demon. His company quietly edged him out of major projects. Brian tried to support him, but Kevin, now a man without anchor, began to spiral. Guilt consumed him, not for who he was, but for how he had handled it. He lost the apartment, then the car. Depression took root like weeds in a neglected garden. Brian eventually left, drained by Kevin's anger and sadness, and Kevin was alone. Waku, on the other hand, flourished. She did not allow heartbreak to shrink her. She poured herself into her work, became a speaker on integrity and emotional abuse in relationships, and founded a counseling center for women navigating betrayal. Her name appeared on newspapers not as Kevin's wife, but as a leader in her own right. One evening, 2 years later, Kevin sat outside a clinic in Keeley. He was thinner, quieter, older. He watched the traffic pass and thought of Waku, not with bitterness, but with a deep ache of regret. He understood now that the worst betrayal wasn't loving someone else, it was lying to someone who had given you their trust. He had not only lost her, he had lost the mirror that once showed him who he was.